Here we go. Hello and welcome. My name is Tim McCracken, and today in Borderless Wealth, I've got with me Gary Lloyd and Vigano Hang, other founders of this amazing program that we've put together over a long period of time. Because this is a new frontier in wealth creation, it's going to empower investors to navigate the new digital age with clarity, confidence, and control. Now, with us today is the team, myself, Vigano, and Gary. So, Vigano, I'd like to introduce you and I'll bring up your background, which I have to say is incredibly impressive career. Would you like to share not only that, but your life's journey of where you came from and how you got to where you are today?
Yes. So thank
Now,
you,
you're
Tim,
from
and
Cambodia, correct?
Gary. Well, thanks for obviously today, and obviously it's correct, correct. And look, my background is obviously born in Greek in Cambodia. However, traveling through the war torn in the early 70s, most of I guess life as childhood growing up in Saigon, Vietnam at the time. Up until obviously 75, that was when the American decided to say goodbye to Vietnam and got out of there. Obviously, as a childhood, living through and born and breathed through war torn, it's certainly a not a good experience as a child. But look, having been through all that in the sort of late or early 80s, which set my life on a journey, which is just like any other refugee in terms of from Vietnam that time. Made my way through, and here I am in Australia. So it's been a very long journey, but most
And
of the
my
life,
my
you know,
understanding is that you actually fled the Pol Pot regime from Cambodia as well.
correct, correct, yes. But obviously not having remember much because I said, like I said, Tim, a young child,
Yeah.
uh, having born there, but most of the childhood growing up in Saigon in Vietnam because obviously because the Pol Pot genocide regime, we had to obviously temporarily migrate across to Vietnam.
Hmm.
Yes, and life began, I guess, on a brighter future is starting here in Australia where I
So
landed.
you arrived here as a stranger in a strange land, not even speaking the language, correct?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
So I
was
see here you're
difficult.
multilingual. You speak four languages now, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess having a bit of an advantage in that because originally studying French and then of course got to Australia, then it's it's become obviously a must thing. Learning English wasn't uh, you know easy, but I guess like anything, if one to put your mind to it, you have to. So yeah, it's been a very long journey up until to date, and obviously in being blessed and being here in Australia and growing up and getting educated. So which is where it set sort of footprint to where I am now.
And I
So
know your MBA serves you well becoming a high senior corporate banker. You've got a very impressive pedigree. Looking back over your banking career, because you're now self-employed entrepreneur on what you do with finance and property, what would have been the highlight of your banking career?
well, yeah, look, I guess through the early 2000, that was when I guess having the opportunity that managing a good sizable portfolio through the corporate bank, as you can see through the career at St George Bank, which is fourth and fifth largest bank at the time in Australia.
Mm, mm.
Um, look, the bank chose to be in that position at the time. We could have been one of the major bank, but we chose not to because for various reasons in the marketplace. Having said that, obviously the journey took on from corporate to commercial business and all across, right across all aspects in retail banking.
Mm.
More importantly, having a good opportunity to, having exposed in that deeper in the credit risk assessment side of things, credit assessment management side of it. So yeah, get a good grasp of, right across the spectrum in terms of credit, and then all the way to your retail, banking side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I
it's
see that you're quite unusual because you've come from an incredibly centralized, corporatized, rigid background to now being a free market entrepreneur. You've got your own international finance and real estate advisory firm. You really do bring unique insight and trusted leadership and bridging what is now becoming a gap that's becoming acceptable between centralized finance and decentralized finance because in the Borderless Wealth program, we're catering for those that have a centralized structure that could have been going for decades, but we're also making available for those that want a decentralized, really borderless, almost invisible type of wealth. So thanks for sharing, Vigano. Very, very interesting. Gary, over to you, my friend. Some insight about yourself.
Well, Tim, we've known each other for a while already, and I've recently started working with Mr. Vigano. Interesting enough, I didn't even know that my time that I was aboard the USS Enterprise, that was all the way back in uh, 1978. I mean,
Yeah.
a long time ago. Okay, and then coming out in 1980, that I was actually involved in the Khmer Rouge evacuation, and I was working
Wow.
at a time when they had given me full reign in photographic surveillance and so forth in the intelligence community on in the U.S. Navy. So I was a part of the what they call the operations division, and but at the same time I had what they call flight skins, so I was allowed to fly in the helicopters and do all the photographic surveillance and not only photographing Russians, but photographing everything that else was going on. And so it was not just it was not a journalistic job, but it was an intelligence job for the U.S. Navy. And I did that for 4 years actively aboard the ship, and then I had a total of 6 years in the U.S. Navy at that point, and we were working in cryptology, counterintelligence, and all different areas. And then later on, in fact, even in regards to Mr. Vigano, okay, I mean, I didn't know that I was actually out there, at nighttime, actually trying to rescue his people, from the time of the Khmer Rouge, with
Mm.
under Pol Pot, and but it was happening, and so it's part of my life. Okay, so it's part of my history.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, later on, I got out of that. I was very well trained by Kodak Corporation. This is during the days of film, when film was paramount in everything we did, and so I was trained by Rochester Institute of Technology, and I became a quality control lab technician, and I later took this in when I was a lot younger, back in the 1980s, and I went into yeah, obviously I was a young man, and I was quite good at my craft, and I found out that I was talentedly good at photographing people. Okay, um, so I took that into a fashion area. Then I went into fashion photography, and then I moved from that to advertising, and then I'm very well published in about 8 different major magazines in internationally. Okay, with my work through the late '80s and into the '90s would be Town and Country, Vogue, LL, Mirabella, uh, GQ. All the the ones that everyone pretty much knows about in the much the printed era. All
Yeah.
right, and then when things was going digital, all right, I could see my pay scale up here, and I'm making a lot of money. and I'll make a lot of money per hour, and also it just starts to plummet very quickly like this.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, well, Gary, you need to maybe possibly change directions. Okay, so I ended up moving into different types of projects that were over in Indonesia, Malaysia, places like that, places that I had traveled when I was in the Navy.
Can
So
I
I had
can
a
I let's
chance to go.
touch on something for our viewers which they may not have picked up, and this is incredibly important, everyone, because
Sure.
Kodak is a dinosaur that died. It was a behemoth. Now, it did not evolve, did it? It did not
No,
shift.
no. Now, Tim, it actually did. But they call themselves an imaging division now. Okay,
Ah,
imaging. Okay,
right.
imaging. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
And there was again the key words what digital you've seen the impact of what digitalization has had in that impact, and this is exactly where we
Yes.
are right here, right now, and this is why we've created Borderless Wealth, because we're in this transition that it's going to move very, very quickly, and it can quite easily slip past you, and the next thing you know, it's a little bit too late. So, one thing, Gary, I do know that you've got immense global business acumen and your military intelligence. I know you're intelligent, very intelligent man. Your attention to detail. It's great to have you on the team. Thanks for your time. And
You're
then
welcome.
myself. So, I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. As you can see, look, I've been through all the usual things, but what I want to focus on really is my time as a tradie, and that's where I started in a small rural town in New Zealand, in Masterton. Was taught my trade.
Certainly, Tim.
And
Yeah.
I learned very quickly that measure twice, cut once, mistakes cost. And it's systems and processes and simplicity. And as I've shifted from a highly centralized, rigid finance, property, valuation, real estate development into this new space since the journey in the last 8 years, is that it's incredibly fast paced, it is incredibly complicated, and I've really tried to bring things down from a trade point of view, clear, concise, easy to understand, and easy to do. And we've broken this down into systems and processes. So even if you had no experience whatsoever with digital assets or cryptocurrency or anything like that, that you'll be able to move forward into this new frontier, which is incredibly exciting, with clarity, confidence, and control. So let's get moving forward. People of you joining today, I would like to put three concepts up to you and ask yourself which is the most important. Now, I'm going to play my cards now. To me, the concept of portless and borderless wealth is so important. Gary, what's appealing to you?
Well, the fact that I've literally lived out of the United States now for about 31 years. I decided to move over to Southeast Asia simply because the lifestyle suits me. But at the same time, I feel like I don't have the restrictions that I normally would have in the United States, and of course in a lot of Western countries where they try to control, well, virtually everything. Okay,
Mm.
so what I like about borderless wealth is that I'm a living example of it. I've done it.
Yeah,
I've bought real estate over here. I'm over in Thailand right now, as you know,
yeah,
and I've bought real estate. I've lived in Malaysia. I've lived in Thailand. I've lived in the Philippines. I've lived in Indonesia, and so I've spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia. I've even raised a family over here on this part
yeah.
of the world.
Mm.
Okay, so
So what's very important for the viewers that joined us today is the fact is, and like all three of us, we actually walk the talk. We actually do this, right? I
we
know,
do it.
I know, Vegano financial sovereignty. That's important to you. With some comments on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, gentlemen, obviously these three factors are very crucial and important. But having through obviously last 25 years in banking and having witnessed and surviving through the many of changes that are emerging in the financial system, particularly witnessing in the, I guess, if you will remember, Tim, back when the early, I guess, I think around 2008 was when
Yep.
the GFC, the global financial crisis,
How could we
Oh
forget
yeah.
it?
that kind of
And nobody
reset,
got that one. Yes. Exactly.
that
No
kind
doubt.
of that kind of reset,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
a bit and kind of obviously a big wake up call for the entire,
Yeah.
banking system in order
Exactly.
the way that we do business and going forward. Now, having seen a lot of changes in every kind of aspect and era of the financial system, how it evolved, uh, obviously credit very tight as we speak at current status, and this is where it's fundamental and critical when you look at borderless wealth is paramount.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity cost here is that's what really people should be paying attention to. As
Mm.
you know, we are witnessing a very kind of a fluctuate and uncertainty
Yeah.
as far as everything by default. If you look at our, President Trump imposed a lot of tariff that that set a kind of a new wake up call
Mm.
for the entire global financial system, and
Mm.
that's a big wake up call.
Yeah.
This is where we are now in kind of I would think in a perfect timing
Mm.
that people, if they are truly seek financial freedom, this is the space to actually be in, because
Mm.
like it or not, crypto is real,
Yeah.
and it is in line what we actually doing now,
Mm.
and it is going to not waiting for anybody.
Well, one of the things
So
I'll put it out there to our audience today is that amazing movie, The Big Short. And when Michael Burry famously went in to the merchant bankers and he says, I want to short the American housing market, they laughed and they said, well, we don't even have an instrument to do that. And he goes, well, make me one. And you could see
Exactly.
how everything was so
yeah,
controlled and manipulated, and even down to Standard and Poor's and the false ratings. And the thing is, the big battle between centralized and decentralized is that on blockchain, there's that beautiful word. It's called immutable. Once it's on the blockchain, it can't be changed. You can't fudge
yeah,
the books. You can't fuck with it, right?
Yep.
It's the
yeah,
truth. And the people are now becoming aware politically, economically. We have been lied to, manipulated for so long. And that is why it is so paramount that we all take control of our own financial
yeah.
sovereignty.
And gentlemen, if I can just make one critical point here. In Australia, all right, now I don't know where the in the Europe being and all that where banking wise, but in Australia particularly, if you to walk into a branch and seeking cash withdrawal, they will put you through the ring.
Oh, I
They
know.
will they will they will they will put you through the ring to a point. It's a bit like an agent, uh, you know, put somebody through an interrogation room.
Mm,
Now, now that's your own money. So the society is now pushing to be cashless. Yeah,
yeah.
that's another thing. Like it or not, it is full 100% control and monitoring. Just to give you an idea, cash was something like 65 or something of that order in trillions were cash available around the globe.
Mm,
Have up until today, think about this, it is down to something like six or seven.
mm,
We're talking physical cash. Now this is a massive wake up call, but obviously as an ordinary person, one wouldn't expect to know this. All they know is that yeah, well, we are living in a digital kind of an era, and everything therefore must be kind of a make it accessible, convenient, but that's the perceived that banking system that wanted you to believe. But the truth is that no more physical cash. So it is going to be cashless. This is where people need to be, I guess, educated and be waking up about this. And this is the future.
And
It's
the
all
other thing
about
too,
this
as
is
you know, as a
digital
bank,
currency coming, and crypto is obviously in line. As obviously, if you truly want to build your wealth, this is the space to be in.
and
So
as a
yeah, cashless
background,
society is here.
as background in centralized banking, you know that a banker can just flick the switch on your file, and no matter how much money you've got in their bank, because what people don't realize is that when you put your money into a bank, you hand over legal ownership. It's not your money anymore. And
Well,
then that's really
you're already with that. That's already in place. Uh, in place there, Timmy. So to give you an example, for instance, in Australia, we have freehold and leasehold. Most, I guess, property or asset class in Asia, so to speak, is default to leasehold. But in Australia, it's freehold.
Correct.
Yeah, one would think freehold. So therefore, you have your standard mortgage. You pay off the mortgage. That then become your clear title, and you would think that you're holding a clear title, but in fact, it's not. That in itself become digital system. So even if you do pay it off the entire mortgage and thinking that you freely own the property, but you could not physically obtain that original title
correct.
of the freehold. So now that then become, if you had to ask and seek for it, well, all you get is a piece of paper, which is pretty much a default to a title search.
Yep.
And that's what the certificate is deemed to say, that you're actually unencumbrance, no debt, just a piece of paper. But
Exactly. So I think we can sum up that all of us in the room here and all those that are tuned into us today agree that financial sovereignty really does need to be taken to the next level, right? And start educating yourself and moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, let's go and see who Borderless Wealth is for. So what we've done, we've broken this into 3 categories. The first is for the private individual. The second is for the business person, because that business person might also have companies. They might want to incorporate this into their business or self-managed super funds. And then we've got the entrepreneurs who are looking to leverage off investor funds. So what we do here is, when we're dealing with you as an individual, it is a very consultative process, and it's also personalized to your specific goal. With the business people, again, the same type of process, but most importantly, it is very easy to understand and do, and time efficient. Now, we're all business people in this room. How many times do we get offered opportunities? But when we make our assessment of moving forward, we've got to look at the time of retraining, reskilling. Is this going to distract me from my primary business? What is going to be the impact and cost to take this on? And quite often we don't go ahead with things because of that barrier. And this is why we've designed this for business people specifically, that you can just come on, we show you how it works, you tap into the system, you understand how the machine works. It is so time efficient. And likewise with entrepreneurs, again, many people in the room today, and including ourselves in the panel, we all know the benefits of not only leveraging other people's money, but other people's time. So Borderless Wealth has been designed for us to do all the heavy lifting for you. Does that make sense?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So individuals, here we go. Vagana, you can throw some light on this. You've been in that corporate environment, those wanting to escape or self-determine.
Yeah, so I guess the good thing about having exposed to in the last 20 plus years, having seen people working really hard, and the thing what we have here in Australia is so-called superannuation, whereby it's mandatory that an employer to pay an employee a contribution, and that obviously goes into their super funds to enforce their saving. However, if you look at the time as I guess, the average working class, 20, 30 years, when husband and wife, for instance, as pay as you go, you're not really saving by the time you actually retire, because obviously inflation and things that do climb, and over the years, really a dollar is worth 50 cents.
Yeah.
So this is the opportunity cost, once again, having that super sitting there. And if you do a combine, maybe you'll extrapolate out maybe a few 100,000. But this is where this particular wealth creation that we actually come up with this is giving, I guess, a perfect opportunity for that, obviously that kind of people who's been working as pay as you go in the last 30 years. Well, you don't have to, I guess, put in all your egg, the old saying, in the one basket. However, if you smartly invest, which means you can diversify, so maybe a portion of that saving could be diversified, and obviously, looking into this wealth program that we actually come up here, and that is
Well, I've just
that is
recently done a with our foundation program, one of our other programs, with a government employee, 250,000 plus in super, and sat down looking over the next 8 years, because the pathway that they were on would not give them the self-determination retirement. They weren't going to have enough.
no.
Basic maths, Bitcoin since the get-go, 42% per annum, 63% compounding. The math isn't that hard. We sat down, did a very simple calculation, and it was a no-brainer, and we moved forward with that. Also, too, I know that the world of the digital nomad is really changing, expats. But one word here that I've inserted is the invisible borderless wealth. Now, the beauty of what we do, you can either do this centralized and keep it on exchange, or you can take it off, decentralized, cold storage in your pocket. It becomes invisible. And there are a lot of benefits there. We can discuss that with you on a one-on-one basis. And again, those looking, again, to accelerate their wealth, whether, I know, Gary, we've got young daughters, right? Now, the reality is, could they afford to even get a deposit together to buy a property? The answer is no, right? And
No, only if they had to go through me.
yeah, good old dad.
But
yeah.
yeah, good old dad. You know how that
Yeah,
works. So
exactly. So,
yeah.
there's a very wide spectrum out there of individuals, whether you're starting out in a career or coming towards there, or you're trapped with, a rigid corporate environment. You've got this boss above you. He's going to be there for the next 12 years. There's no room for you to move. There's nowhere to go left or right. Maybe it's time to self-determine and take that step. Business owner, I'm going to touch on this because coming from a real estate background as a developer, and I know we're always looking to add value, add equity fast to gear up to move on to next projects, and having spent a lot of time in the mortgage industry here for 7 years, and also the investment property, the rule used to be back, here we go, 2000. Remember the old 7.25 rule, Vagana? Every 2.5 years, properties double. Well, that's now punched out to 15 years, right?
Sure.
So a lot of what we're doing now is working with real estate investors and developers, but even just with the investors, to accelerate, almost like an offset, a crypto offset account through Borderless Wealth, to create rapid equity, to reduce debt fast, to take that step forward. So you might be able to buy a property every 3 to 5 years instead of having to wait every 15 years. Now, I know, Vagana, you have a lot to do with business owners, and I know Michael Saylor is very famous in saying this, that most business owners they actually neglect to boost the balance sheet. They're so focused on profit and loss and cash flow. What's your thoughts on that, Vagano?
Yeah, correct. One of the things that I find, Tim and Gary, is that as a business owner, is particularly here in Australia, you carry a lot of burdens by meaning of, I guess, borrowing. So a lot of business owner here, I guess, in the SME, small medium business enterprises, they will always carrying a debt. So liabilities against your asset. Liabilities always seem to be a great thing in their obviously friends. And having said that, and so focusing, it's all about cash flow. But then when they look at, you look at the balance sheet, it's not there. It's not there.
Isn't
And
it
this
funny
is
how
where,
that debt, that damn debt is there every financial year? It just won't
Okay,
go away.
hey, let me interject something as an American, okay? Because I mean, I come from a land family in the United States, and I used to hold two real estate licenses in the U.S. Okay, along with my other things that I used to get into. But I used to flip properties in the '90s and do all kinds of wild stuff. But I'm going to tell you one thing, okay? There was an old saying that we used to go by, and that is, you know, you make your money on your property when you buy it.
Correct.
That's it. Not when you sell it, when you buy it. And I had a fellow that was so good at this. I remember up in New York in the Long Island area. I mean, you said like over 100 something properties because he used to work with the banks, and these are all distressed properties and things like this, which they could have used a system like what we're doing right now. They really could have used a system right now that we have, but that wasn't available then. Okay,
right.
so what? Next thing you know, they're just boarding up the windows and things like that. Next thing you know, you got a piece of distressed property,
Mm.
and so the idea was, and the way the guy used to tell me, in why I was sort of he was my mentor. Okay, and and he said, "Do you know how you make money in real estate?" And I said, "No, you tell me, Joe." His name was Joe, and he said, he goes, you you have to you have to buy it cheap. You make your money when you buy it. And I said,
And,
"Oh,
and
really?
also
And how do you do?"
time the
Yeah,
cycle.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I said, "Well, how do you do that?" He goes, "Well, you have to steal it." You know, so yeah, which I thought was a very interesting way of approaching, because at that time you had to negotiate things with all these little thrifts, small bankers, people like that on the side, and you used to come into the market, used to come into the neighborhoods, and you say, okay, this house is up for sale for $100,000, for instance, okay, and but the lady only put 50,000 into it on her mortgage, and she wants 110,000, but fair market value actually in this neighborhood is at 70,000. So you go to the banker and you say, I'll give it to you. And the banker say, what do you have? And I say, well, I've got a piece of property here like this. Okay, fair market value is around 70. What are you going to give me for it? And then the banker would come back and say, well, I'll give you 85. Great, fine. I go to the closing table. I pick up $15,000,
Mm.
and I never even pick up a key.
And one of the
All right.
things
Now those are back in the days before this type of environment was available. Okay. And so, Tim, I'm going to let you go ahead and
yeah,
elaborate
and
on that one.
you've illustrated something, because what you're showing there is a very long, lengthy, time-consuming process, moving parts, individual, yada yada yada.
Yes, you're right.
Now,
Yes, it was.
timing
Yeah.
is
Yep.
key. Now, I've been in this space since 2016. We're heading
Mm.
into what's being heralded as the biggest crypto boom ever to make life-changing money. The timing is perfect. Assets have been sold down because of Trump tariffs. You can pick up stuff at pennies on the dollar in this fund that we're putting
Correct.
together for you, but you just go
Correct.
and buy it. That's it. You don't have to go through that process. It's very simple, very easy to do. And what this means for business owners, we can put together you with the Borderless Wealth program on your balance sheet, a new business that's got no staff, no rent, no power, no training, no nothing. And it just grows overnight.
Yep.
Very easy, simple, and good to do, right? So look, moving
Simple,
forward.
Tim. Simple, Tim. Let's say one thing, okay, and to both you and to Gato, okay. This is one of the few programs which I'm very happy to be aboard with right now, on board with, and that is the fact is that we're showing people a program that they make money even while they're sleeping. It doesn't matter, okay? It's
Correct.
running perpetually 24/7, all right? And like Tim said, like what I was doing back in the 90s and the late 80s and things like that, in trying to do real estate. That was it was extremely laborious. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, you had to go. I mean, you literally had to go through what they call microfiche at those days. The computers were not on. Everything was, of course, public record in the United
Mm,
States. Everything's
mm,
public record. Same in Australia,
mm.
but you just had to go through the process, you know. And if you did not have everything in check,
Yep.
Yep.
okay, well, all right, you didn't have a deal. That was
Well,
it.
the
Okay.
beauty with this that
Yeah.
process is it doesn't apply, right? So we do have to move forward. We've got quite a bit to going through today. But another thing with
Yeah. I'm
business
sorry.
owners is that many business owners are actually looking to exit. They've inherited a business from their family, or it's not quite them.
Oh yeah,
Thinking,
the exit
what's
strategy.
another
Yeah.
path to go?
Hmm.
And dear to my heart, and I know, and tradies at the moment, Australia, especially WA, and that, like they're crushing it. I've got members that he's a plasterer, $1,000 a day, right?
Mm.
But the problem is that for them to shift into doing something else or to supplement or facilitate, so if they went and did something else and earned half the money, they can still maintain their life and their lifestyle. So this gives those tradies or those business owners an opportunity to see a clear exit strategy moving forward. So moving
Well,
forward,
can I add one thing in there, Tim?
sure.
Okay. All right. I came from the Midwest. All right. I came from Oklahoma. All right. So I have a lot of friends and my family and so forth that, you know, that have been in just hands-on trade work. Okay. I mean, from owning housing construction companies. Okay. To even my brother being a contract painter. All right. Now we're all over we're all over 65 now. All right. So the point is that they're just not that flexible anymore to do that kind of physical work. So
Correct.
they need programs like this, okay, that are working behind them all the time, and that's that's the reason why I'm on board.
Yep. And then moving into the next category, entrepreneurs. Now, Gary, this is you. I know that you're very entrepreneurial. You've always been looking for new and fresh opportunities. And I know that when we started discussing this, well over a year ago, um,
Oh well, yeah.
again, like you lit up like a Christmas tree.
I did. Okay, well, that's nice to know. Okay, because
I know, I
I'm a
know,
pretty good looking
Vegano, and
guy.
it was, and again, Vegano,
Yeah.
we've known each other. Oh God, how long? I forgot.
Yeah.
But again, just by chance, cross paths again. Hey mate, what's happening? Sat down. What are you up to? We put them down, and an absolute Cinderella fit. So entrepreneurs, sophisticated investors, you know who you are, you know what you like, you know what to do. Give this serious consideration. And then Vegano, I mean, you deal with a lot of angel investors and entrepreneurs, savvy business professionals. You know the
Yeah.
value of leveraging other people's money. Everyone knows that, but what people don't realize is you can actually leverage time. And this is what this program enables to do. And
Mm.
we'll cover this in the I am with you, is that you'll be able to raise capital to
Mm.
leverage off other people, but you'll be able to leverage off our time, right? So this
Yeah.
means it's very time efficient. What are your thoughts about that, Fagano?
Well, look, it couldn't be any better timing, Timmy. I guess when we have, particularly here in Australia, the timing just couldn't be better. But more importantly, when if we're talking about the sophisticated investors box, Australia is a safe haven if you look at long-term investment, and this is gonna be, I think, going forward, not so long distant. Australia will entice a number of sophisticated investors, and that's spreading right across. And Gary, you're in actually agree with this, is that some of these, I guess, high net worth investors are really eyeing in to Australia, if anything, that they're looking at long term investment.
Mm,
Now, in saying that, this is a perfect, obviously, vehicle or opportunity to have them as far as diversification, right? So that you can at the same time invest in whether it be asset class such as properties or good business venture here, and at the same time you can diverse some of that capital into this particular wealth vehicle here that we're actually offering. So
And
I
the good
think
thing, you don't need a lot. I know we'll go some numbers a little
no,
bit on, but it's actually not a lot. And especially if you're using other people's money, like for example, there are a lot of people out there that have got large networks, right? For them to raise, for example, 20 people, 50 grand each, they could probably do it in a few
yeah,
days.
yeah,
So this is an exciting opportunity. We'll discuss this with you one-on-one when we come and sit down with you on
correct.
a one-on-one basis. So moving forward, this is very important. We do not touch your money. Like I can't stress this. We are not asking you to invest in us. We are asking you to invest in you using the systems and processes that have been developed by myself the last 4.5 years and documented since October 23. When you come and do the tour, have a look at the background, we'll pop the hood, see how the engine works. It's very, very clear. So you control 100% of your ownership of your money. Okay. Next thing, you have 100% transparency because we lay everything out in front of you with choices, right? That's very, very important. And then at the end of the day, you're the shot caller, not us, okay? It's your future, it's your direction, it's your money, what suits you. Now, we'll kick the can like we're doing today, toss some ideas around, but at the end of the day, you're 100% in control of your money with clarity and your decision maker. And I'm sure that people will be very, very comfortable with that. Now, the program system
Certainly.
process, we're not going to spend too much time on this because it's actually all in the IM. So in there, when you get the IM, you'll see the research model and the rating system that's been developed, tried, and tested. Very simply, it's for opportunity and value. There's 5 layers it must go through, passing each test. If it fails one, it gets rejected. If it gets through to the apex, it then goes into a deep dive, our own internal proprietary intellectual property, where we do an assessment. It must score 72 out of 100, right, to move forward to be rated. And then there's a rating system of 5 points there. It must score more than 6.5, right? So if it goes through the steps, goes through the deep dive, but scores 6, we reject it. So what we present to you is a crypto that has been through the system and the processes and with a rating and a number. It's that clear. It's that clear. And then you can make the choice what suits you. Now, this has been tried, tested, and proven. And most importantly, as I said before, you are the decision maker. It's not our call, right? It's what you feel comfortable with. Sometimes if you're going a little bit too into that high risky, that quantum, if you're chasing that 100x, 200x, and you want to put 20% of your portfolio, well, you're probably saying, oh, if you hear me saying, do you think that's a good idea? But I think you're smarter than that. So that, again, that's something we'll discuss on a one-on-one basis. And this has been developed, and this is incredibly important because this program comes with a 12-month performance assurance. Now, how that works is that you're actually given an assured outcome over a period of time. Now, this is actually taken from data of in the last halving cycle. Now, you can see there the 3 dots under the yellow. Should the market come back by 20% or more, we put the clock on pause until it recovers. So it took 3 months to recover. We add that on to the 12 to become 15 months. What that means for you, you're not going to get left at the end of it, not quite getting there and saying, what are we going to do? So we can't say what the market's going to do, but we can assure you that we're on the journey with you. We've got the mechanisms and we've got the process in place. Now, for example, we're looking at say, for example, a 1x assurance, we might take an account from 100 to 200, right? If that happens before, that's great. We've delivered on the assurance, right? If it goes ballistic and parabolic and it does 2 or 3x, what's really important is 100% of that money is all yours, right? 100%, because we're fee for service. It's as simple as that. And what that means, there are trigger mechanisms in place to ensure that you get the outcome as promised. Now, the capital requirements, I want to make one point here. It's not that you have to have this money like today, because when we put together your dashboard and your plan and your strategies, we've got people that are refinancing properties, selling shares, got some cash. Everyone's got stuff everywhere, right? So what we recommend as an individual, 100,000, everything is in US dollars. Okay. And the good news is that when you make your money and you bring it back to Australia and you pick up about 30%, which is even better. A lot of people are just drawing down off the offset account, line of credits, or refinancing properties to do that. Businesses, obviously, all businesses are different, right? Depending on what that is, anywhere between 150 to 500. And again, you're the shot caller. You decide. If you say, look, I only want to do 200, that's fine. And you might say, it might take me, Vegano, we're doing one at the moment. Aren't we doing a layered process for him to step into that as per his situation? So we're flexible. It's not rigid. The most important thing is getting an outcome in a process that you're comfortable with. May seem like a lot of money, 500 to a million, but as I said, 20 people, 50 grand each for those entrepreneur angel investors. Sometimes that could be just a few days on the phone. Okay.
This is Tim. I believe this is what you're calling under corporate. They can actually create their own hedge fund.
Correct.
In this environment. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, how to create and manage your own hedge fund, right? And we'll discuss that.
Correct.
What people don't realize, a hedge fund's actually all about mitigating and managing risk, right? Now, with the exit strategy, it's very important because the exit strategy is layered and it's systematic. So we'll discuss with that on a one-on-one basis and how that works. Also, too, everything is predetermined. What that means is there is no emotion, right? So when this happens, we do that. And when that happens, we do this. It's all set. It's a plan. I'm a tradie. When you build a house, as you know, you got your plans and your specifications. You build your plan. You don't change it halfway through, right? You stick.
Can you just verbally right now, while we're on this discussion here, can you define FOMO?
Yeah, FOMO, for those that don't, means fear of missing out. And without getting too technical, so in all markets, there's what's called an ABC. This is my charting background. ABC stair-step pattern, the high side and the downside. The A step is the swing traders, then the trend traders come in, and the C leg is the B leg's double the A, and the C is double the B. All the emotion, all the retail, all the YouTubers screaming, and all these people are rushing in, and they're actually which is good for us because they provide our exit liquidity for when we're bringing you out and bringing that money back. So we love FOMO because we're on the right side of it. There's also another one, Gary, you'll like this one. It's called JOMO.
Oh, let me hear that one.
JOMO.
Okay, I'd love to hear that one.
Have you ever heard of JOMO?
I'll let you explain.
Okay, it's actually called,
you go ahead. Go ahead.
I've actually experienced this, right? It's called the joy of missing out. And
okay, so
situation.
This is like Wall Street too, where they say greed is good, I mean, and in fact it's legal, all right. But FOMO, fear of missing out, then you go GOMO, okay.
GOMO,
and these are great acronyms. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. Okay.
And I've actually had that. I actually had I missed out on a crypto opportunity that turned out to be a rug pull, and all the investors lost their money. So I was so joyous that I actually missed out.
Joyous.
So that's what JOMO is. And most importantly, we've got trigger mechanisms in place, and they can be adjusted. We do that with all the charting and things like that. So I know it's been a good chat today, guys. I think it's coming to what we call decision time, and this is not decision to buy, right?
Oh,
we're not selling anything.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
We kick in the can. So what the decision for those that have tuned into us today is, first of all, is the individual, the route, the path that maybe you'd like to explore. I know Vegano, we're doing a lot with SME, and business people, business programs from there. The business program actually isn't much more than the individual, but you can actually run multiple dashboards, their personal, their business, a new corporation, even a self-made. So it's got massive, massive value. And also this is discuss it. It's not financial advice. Invoice, and it's tax deductible as well if you'd like to go down that path as well. And I know business owners love that as well. And finally, there will be some of you that tuned in that go, yeah, I know 20 people have got 50 grand. I'd like to discuss that. So that's at a different level. So when we're in contact with you or you're making contact with us, just decide, because there are three separate IMs, right? Information memorandum. So we don't want to overload you with too much information at this stage. So come and request an information memorandum which is specific to you. Then generally what we do is a quick discovery call, or we can do a discovery Zoom, right? If you want to sit with one or two or three of us and discuss all that. And then finally a Zoom meeting where I'll actually take you in the back end, we'll pop the hood, show you how it all works, right? And you'll feel very, very comfortable what's been verified, validated, tried, tested, and proven. So, gentlemen, I think that's a wrap. Great session. Vegano, always great insight. Gary, as they say in the military, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, and back to Vegano. Okay, real quick. Okay, openly, Vegano. I didn't really know what I was doing at that time, other than I was instructed by my government. Okay, but we did our best to try to take care of everybody and save everyone we could, and I'm glad that you're one of them. Okay.
Look, absolutely, Gary. Look, I guess, it's certainly something that, none of us are actually can plan or foresee the future. It it just happened to happen that way. And look at the on the brighter side, we are so blessed that
it's brought the three of us together.
Yeah,
it's brought the three of us together.
Yeah, we're definitely been blessed. And this is the whole, I guess, whole thing that brings us all together. And to all the viewers and people that do come across, our presentation here. And in the end of the day, we are here to obviously trying to do our utmost and assist you from obviously from ground to in terms of building your wealth, however your circumstances, your cases are. We are here to actually case by case, one-on-one with you, and that's what it's all about. So it's certainly an opportunity that, if you think this is for you and something that you absolutely thinking, yes, well, it's time to start planning the future, by all means, no harm. Reach out to us. We are here, and that's what it's all about.
And one thing,
I couldn't agree more. And Tim, I just want to let you know that in your efforts and everything you're doing, that you certainly assembled the dream team. Okay, so
well, hey, Gary, I've just done some numbers, and it's really scary. Do you realize between the three of us, people are tapping into more than a century, 100 years, more than 100 years of experience.
Well, there you go. There you
let's pray to God that He'll continue. He'll continue our blessing. Yeah. So
exactly. Okay.
And one thing, just
gentlemen,
to our audience and the viewers that have tuned into us, a promise and an undertaking, right? Should you want to have a discovery call and a Zoom, I promise, I know we all promise that it's not a sales process, okay? It's really important, right? There's no selling. And at the end of it, if it's not for you, hey, that's cool, part as friends. And the next question is, well, where do we go from here? So now that's my contact number down there. You can message me, call me, WhatsApp me, or whatever. We all use WhatsApp a lot because we shift a lot of files and information through that. So WhatsApp is preferred. So thank you for joining us today. And those who have tuned in. Gary, any final parting words? Are you
I'm just yeah, I am a bit, but anyway, which is rare for me because I'm me, I'm a loudmouth American. But on the other end, I can just tell you that this is one of the best systems that I've ever aligned myself with. Yeah. I'm glad to be on board, and I want to see more people take advantage of this because borderless wealth is only the future going forward now.
It's the new
in my opinion.
It's the new
absolutely
frontier.
Yeah.
Vegano, and we'll wrap up and we'll say goodbye to everyone, and we'll speak to you all soon. Parting words.
Well, look, like I said, it's always been, happy to see you guys and catch up again. And of course, blessing moment like this, obviously, everything happened for a reason. So, yeah, to all you viewers out there and tune into this, certainly please, look after yourself and by all means, looking forward to meeting some of you in the near future.
Well, that's right. And at the
We're
moment,
all here for you. That's
yeah,
it.
Yep.
the world is
We're all
going
here for
through
you.
the world is going through a huge transformational realignment process. I think it's really important that anyone that's got some forward thinking and some vision see the benefit of front running this and getting in front of it, right? And getting themselves aligned, because in doing so, the whole universal and the whole economic change going through will just lift and do all the heavy lifting for you. So everyone, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you soon. Everyone take care.
All
And
right. Take care,
thanks for
guys.
joining us.
Thank you, Tim, and thanks for bringing me aboard the new paradigm. Okay,
You're welcome.
all right.
All right. Thank you,
Okay,
gentlemen.
guys. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you, Vagano. Thank you, Tim.
Cheers, mate.
Okay.